Good morning, everyone. Thanks, one and all, for taking time out to join today's webinar session. In the course of next half an hour or so, we're going to focus on how to automate integration between Salesforce and NetSuite, and how to simplify or how to build such an integration solution leveraging DBSync, iPaaS, and Cloud Platform. This is Avinash. I'm one of the senior engineers at DBSync. I'm going to be walking you through um, uh, what is that we do, who we are, and what are the new enhancements that we've made over the course of 1 year or so, and also sort of demonstrate how such an integration solution can be sort of put into action, how we can move data between Salesforce and NetSuite. For those of you who have been attending our webinar sessions, you already know or aware of some of the connectors that we or the solutions that we got to offer. I'm going to do a quick run through of what DBSync is about and what is who we are and what we've been doing. DBSync is part of Avankia, which is the parent company. We've been one of the first companies to be incubated by Salesforce in the year 2007. Ever since, we've added a host of applications on the Salesforce App Exchange. We also have quite a dominant player in some of the other marketplaces like Microsoft, Intuit, and so on. We're headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee. We also have offices in San Francisco, California Bay Area, and also to go with the Offshore and Development Center in Bangalore, India. We have about 450 to 500 customers using both the on-demand and the on-premise solution, and also some of the other product lines like DBSync replication tool along with the ETL platform. Here's a quick view of all the connectors that is already part of the DBSync repertoire. As you can see, there are quite a few, the CRM applications to go with. There's Salesforce, there's Microsoft Dynamics platform, and also we support a host of the accounting or ERP systems. Some of the new connectors that we've added is Sage, and some of the older connectors that we've had like QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online, and also some of the cloud ERP systems that we also support like Intact and NetSuite and so on. Along with interacting with these APIs, we also support integrating with all of the major databases like SQL Server, MySQL, DB2, Oracle, and so on. Here's a quick, overview of all the customers that we have. We have a unique distinction of catering to a wide spectrum of audience, so to speak. We're a major player in the SMB space, mostly in the Salesforce QuickBooks space, and also we have a replication product line which caters to the enterprise segment, when we see major players like Philips, Amazon, or Scotiabank, and so on, also using DBSync, tools. One of the most talked about subject is, especially in today's age of data, is your data really usable? Given the fact that most of the companies or organizations using multiple applications, are these applications are talking to each other at all? And also to go with the different formats, the different file extensions, how best can you leverage or how best can you use your data? So which is where a platform or an integration or an ETL tool of this kind will really come in handy. We're not just doing data exchange anymore, or data integrations anymore. In the process, we are also doing process automation. For example, one of the most used or most implemented or deployed use cases, where at least where DBSync has been automating CRM and accounting integration, mostly to do with order to cash, or maybe code to cash. Some of these use cases that comes to mind. So we're going to see something very similar in today's demonstration on how a CRM system like Salesforce can be integrated with that of NetSuite. Not just doing the data exchange or data integrations. In other words, we also sort of do process automation in the process. So here's a quick overview of the DBSync iPaaS architecture. As you can see, So every application that we connect with, those are termed as adapters. And then it, just like any other ETL tool, you have, there's something called as workflows, wherein you can build your own workflows or queries, and also build your own rules. You can select your target and source connectors or adapters. And it acts as your ID-like environment where you can start building, integration solution between any system or any connectors that you have subscribed for. So in today's demonstration, I'm going to talk about how data can flow between Salesforce and NetSuite. Here's a typical use case we're trying to automate in today's demonstration, and we're going to see how this can be sort of put into action in the course of the next few minutes or so. So as you can see, as a typical use case between any CRM and an ERP system, on one hand you have all of your accounts or leads coming in to your system, into your CRM system like that of Salesforce. Now, the whole point of having integration of this kind, or having integration of any kind, is to make sure the point of entry is only in one system. So the account and lead flow that is coming into your system, once you've had a sale, we're going to see how that data can be sort of pushed into your NetSuite via DB-Sync. Now, the same concept can be extended into some of the other objects and tables as well. But we're going to focus on how a receivable cycle or receivable automation can be sort of put into action in the course of next 5 or 10 minutes. Next, I'm going to, the next slide, what I'm going to sort of focus on is what are the highlights or what are the benefits or value proposition of having integration of this kind. Now, for one, when you're doing data integration, or you're moving data, or you're configuring data in a certain way on how it needs to flow from one system into another, you're increasing visibility across the board. And secondly, a lot of manual data entry can be avoided. And also, you can sort of literally prevent duplications occurring across the board owing to manual data entry by folks. Okay, so I'm going to straight away move into a demonstration of the tool. We're going to see how a typical Salesforce system, or how we can sort of move data from Salesforce into that of NetSuite via DB-Sync. For those of you who are not aware, you can always register for a free trial for any of the connectors. All you can do is go to mydbsync.com and look for some of the products and solutions that we already have, or connectors. You can register for a free trial. You get a 15-day free trial with the DB-Sync. You'll also get or you can probably reach out to our support lines, and one of our support engineers will be able to sort of get you up and running with Salesforce and NetSuite. So this, once you come into mydbsync.com, you can go to my account, log into your DB-Sync account. You'll be provided with the login information once you subscribe for any of our connectors. Post that. Once I log into my DB-Sync account, it'll redirect me to my homepage, wherein I can configure. As you know, we sell our connectors based on the endpoint. So our connectors are charged on a subscription basis. It is per organization, per year, and per endpoint. So you can have multiple users created within your DB-Sync account, and you can and you can have them all configure or login for administration of the tool. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to go to my home and click on Development Studio, which will navigate me to the IDE-like environment where all the mappings or solution can be built. So I'm going to click on Development Studio, as you can see. So it'll navigate me to the IDE page or IDE environment. So since I'm using the on-premise version of DBSync, I'm using everything is deployed locally. So as soon as you would log in, you'll see three main components. Now you have projects, you have functions, and you have template library. Now, for those of you who are not aware of the template library, this is the library is something. Let's say you buy you register for a free trial. You can download some of the pre-built mappings using the template library. And functions is something we already provide quite a few functions for data transformation, and you can also build your own function, and you can call these functions at any given time. We're going to see how that can be done during the demonstration. So projects, again, lastly, the projects. So the projects is something, for example, if I'm moving data if I have to integrate data between NetSuite and Salesforce, I can think of that as one project. So a project can be viewed as a configuration between the two systems on how the data should flow. Once I click on a project, as you can see, there are a few. It branches out with with several other components. I'm going to go to connectors. As one would imagine, you have Salesforce and NetSuite as one of the connectors. If I were to go to Salesforce, you have a couple of ways to authenticate your Salesforce login. One is you can put in your username and password, and you also have the option of validating the connection, or you could quickly use the quick setup or the OAuth authentication, where it'll navigate, it'll open up a pop-up window of the kind. There we go. So if I were to say connect to Salesforce, you can log in to your instance or Salesforce org, and once you're done, this is the more preferred way. You can point it to a sandbox instance, production, or if there's any custom URL associated with your Salesforce org. So once post login, you can click on validate connection. So this will ensure your connector settings are validated. So so that is in a way to tell the system that you're good to go with building these mappings between Salesforce and NetSuite. So in case if there's an issue with your login, you can always it'll always throw an error, or you'll get an acknowledgement message saying there seems to be some issue with your username and password. Maybe you need to correct those. I'm going to know NetSuite. So as you can see, some of the parameters associated with NetSuite, you put in your company ID, username and password. Once you're through with that, you're going to hit the save to ensure all the credentials are saved, and you can click on validate connector. So if everything is good, so you'll get a message or the validate button turning green saying the connector is validated and we're good to go. We're going to wait for, there seems to be a slow network or a slowdown with the network. So one of the other things I would, while this is validating, so as you can see, I'm running DBSync as a Tomcat console. Now this is something where you can run it as a Tomcat console or a standalone console. This helps in debugging for consultants and developers alike. You can run the tool that way. You can see the data moving the message coming up on the console. The other way is to sort of install dbSync as a Windows service. So one of the good reasons to do so is, if you're having server maintenance or something of that kind. So, if you were to restart the server, a dbSync service also starts along with the server. So if there's any scheduler or the scheduler job that is running in tandem, so that is also taken care of. So as you can see, initial validation usually takes time because it goes through, it also depends on your network as well. So once your connector is validated, you would get a message saying successfully validated. Next, I'm going to move on. The next component I'm going to focus on is all the processes. So one of dbSync is as a fully multi-threaded application. You can have multiple processes, running concurrently as well. So you can think of moving data from NetSuite into Salesforce. Could be one process, or data moving the other way around. You can probably put it in another process and have them run concurrently at different schedule intervals. So every process, a process can have a bunch of workflows. So we're going to see how what these workflows are and what essentially they do. So here's a typical workflow. So as you can see, the naming convention that you see is also sort of gives you an indication of how the data is moving. So here I'm initiating the process, or one of the workflows that I'm trying to, or the workflows is trying to do is push data from Salesforce account into NetSuite customers. So once you identify what's an equivalent of a Salesforce account or what's equivalent of a Salesforce or a NetSuite customer, you go ahead with the mapping and then you sequence out these jobs accordingly. So there's a reason why it is sequenced out this way. If you are carrying out integration of sales invoices or sales orders, you got to ensure the customer and the items queue is always existing on the other end. So this is one way of ensuring, by sequencing out these different jobs. So we have quite a, for today's session, we have account and customer integration workflow that is active. There's contacts information. There's also Salesforce product and NetSuite items mapping, and lastly, of course, the translating an opportunity into a NetSuite invoice. We're going to see how data stacked up in Salesforce can be sort of pushed into NetSuite with the click of a button. To begin with, here's a typical opportunity. In a case should be taken to make sure that at least there's one line item or one opportunity product against it. So we have two of them here, and also it has an associated account. So the integration can be invoked, depending on how, or any trigger. So there's some with regards to dbSync, we sort of use some of these fields as trigger. So for example, if you look at, there's something called as send to NetSuite. Once you mark this as sales order or invoice, you make sure, or you tell the system that it is, good to go to NetSuite. So that way you can sort of schedule a job that is always running behind the scene. So it's going to look for all of your opportunities or orders in your Salesforce, which are flagged accordingly, or maybe even a batch end of every day, pushed into NetSuite automatically. So as with any opportunity or orders, it has associated accounts. So with accounts, you'll get all the other attributes in terms of bill to shipped information. Also will be pushed over via dbSync. So let's see how such a use case sort of can be put into action by clicking on or by running an integration. So a couple of ways to initiate the integration. One is, of course, via the Run Now button, and the other one is also through our scheduler. So I'd like to talk about the scheduler. So as you can see, once you have these processes defined in a project, if you go to the scheduler menu, you'll get those processes listed out here. So in this case, it's one of the processes I'm trying to execute is dbSync Salesforce to NetSuite. So you can configure it, when it should be started. what should be the interval, the scheduler interval or time interval. You could run it every minute, depending on the amount of data that we're trying to push or the use case we're trying to automate. We configure these accordingly. So let's say if I were to schedule it to run every 1 hour, so once I hit on save, the job gets saved here. Oops, give me 1 second. Let's say I'm going to run it every 10 minutes. As you can see, the scheduler job is added. So in case, if you log into DBSing, if there's a job running, it also shows you the status, if a job is being run or not. So I'm going to delete the scheduler for now. I'm going to sort of invoke the integration manually. So I would come into processes and I would hit run now. So it's going to execute all the workflows which are active, not necessarily the inactive ones. Again, you can activate or inactivate a certain workflow by clicking on these on and off buttons. So I'm going to click on now, run now. As you can see, the process is initiated. So it's going to start retrieving records from Salesforce, and it's going to execute these jobs sequentially. Once the integration is complete or completed, you'll see a message throw up in the console, or you can also go to our logs, so sort of view all of these workflows getting executed one by one, and it's going to show up in our DBSync logs also accordingly. There we go. So it's currently, it says the status as running. So once the sync is or the integration is completed, you can look through the DBSync log viewer to see all the processes that got executed, and also all the data, what was the request sent from Salesforce and what is the response you received from NetSuite. So as you can see, the data is still being fetched. So one of the things that we do is also we do a write back into Salesforce. So depending on which of the two systems is the source or target. For example, in Salesforce, you don't necessarily have to wait until the integration is completed, because it is also sort of taking care of several write backs that are happening. So we can also see the data moving as we speak. So if you ought to see the Salesforce data, for example, the account, getting created in NetSuite, you can check for the account if the account has been translated as a customer data in NetSuite. So I'm going to go to list. There's relationships and customers. There we go. We do have Oracle Finances that has just come in. And if I were to go to Salesforce account, which is Oracle Finances, you can see all the attributes of the Salesforce account details. That is the bill to, ship to, phone numbers, and fax number has come into NetSuite exactly the way they're configured. Now, everything that you see is configurable, meaning if you were to add, if let's say you have custom fields that needs to be mapped, those can be mapped within the tool as well. Now, lastly, I think once the customer is done, the next job that is going to be executed is, of course, the item, and lastly, the invoice. So like I mentioned, um, along with integrating these objects or entities into NetSuite or any other system, we also do a write back. So once the integration is completed, like I mentioned, if you were to just reload the opportunity page, you'll see the send to NetSuite trigger turned as invoice created successfully, and you also see the NetSuite entity ID, which is the unique identifier, and of course, lastly, the invoice number that got generated in NetSuite. So we ensure that is also coming back into Salesforce. So why do we do that? Now, one of the things that we see is any incremental updates happening in NetSuite with regards to invoice updates like payment received and so on. You can see those changes reflect within NetSuite. So we also make sure the NetSuite invoice number that got generated, you can do a quick search to come back. I'll say invoice. Yeah, there we go. So this is the invoice that just got created or got translated from an opportunity line item. You can see the two items queues that were brought over from Salesforce into NetSuite. And so again, if you would accept a payment over here, or maybe there's a partial payment or a full payment, you'll see that data, the integration is automatically taking care of that job, wherein if there's a payment applied, you'll see that payment status change as closed. If it is paid in full, it's going to show as the payment is made in full, or if there's a partial payment, it shows the amount paid in the total amount pending. So that you don't as a bookkeeper or as a sales rep, you're not necessarily bouncing around multiple systems to actually get a good visibility over your customer or information, the customer information like the days outstanding, or if there's a payment outstanding against a certain account. It gives you a good visibility across the board. Guess the integration is also finished. So this pretty much completes the demonstration on how you can move data, or how a use case, a receivable automation use case, can be sort of put into action using DP-Sync iPaaS platform. So I'm going to, we still have a few minutes left in the webinar session. I'm going to use the remaining 10 to 15 minutes for the Q&A session. For those of you you have any questions, please have them coming. We have a team sort of waiting to respond on these questions. Please feel free to ask any questions concerning integration, or in particular with regards to NetSuite and Salesforce. Please feel free to post these questions. Okay, I do have one question coming here. What is the pricing on NetSuite and Salesforce? Well, the pricing information is available on the website. We charge, based on, we don't charge per user with Salesforce or NetSuite. It is charged per endpoint. So if you have multiple users, you designate one user for Salesforce and NetSuite alike, and you can configure those users accordingly in DP-Sync, and you're good to go. I have another question. Does this support custom object integration? I believe this is more specific to Salesforce. Most definitely. Some of the mappings that you saw, or some of the workflows that you saw a little while back, those workflows are something which are built by one of us. Now, for those of you or if you have purchased the platform license, you can build these workflows or mappings yourself. Someone who's Salesforce savvy, database savvy, you can build these mappings yourself, and the basically the entire schema of both Salesforce and NetSuite open up. You can pick and choose objects, or you also have the ability to sort of join standard objects with or probably combine multiple objects, like the master detail or lookup relationship. You can combine those and map it with any target system, and in this case it is NetSuite. So you can build those mappings accordingly. So yes, we do support custom object mapping, and the same holds good for NetSuite as well. As long as there are APIs for it, we can always integrate those. I do have another question coming in. What is the latest API version that is supported within DBSync? I guess we support. I think all the current API version that is going on is Salesforce 36.0, I believe. We support 36.0 as well. Now, you can always, when you're adding Salesforce login information or other global variables, you can put in the endpoint as 32, because Sales was always, these API versions are always backward compatible, so they should always work regardless. You should be able to see, once the connectors are validated, you should be able to see schema of, or all the objects listed, including that of custom, standard, all of it sort of getting listed out in the DBSync mapping section. All right. I guess thanks once again, thanks for your participation in today's webinar session. Do watch this space. We are also doing some other technical and partner webinars on how you can execute these mappings on your own. Please watch this space for those webinar sessions in the coming weeks. Once again, thanks for taking time out to join this session. This is Avinash signing off. Thank you and have a good day.